Okay, so I've got lots of water here on my hands, nice and wet. And I want to make sure that I kind of hold the cup so that it's facing straight up and down. So I'm going to do it here so you can see on the side. And I'm kind of holding my hand just flat like so. And I use the back, my thumb and my finger to shape the handle. So let me see if you can see it better like this. And perhaps like this. Here, I think that's a better view. All right, but it's good to change your hand position because it does kind of stretch and warp in different ways. All right, my clay's a little stiff. I formed this earlier and I want to stretch it a little bit. So I'm able to push a little harder. If your clay's too soft, it's really going to be a quick handle. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of fall apart. Sometimes I'll kind of push the clay in slightly so that I can narrow it. I kind of like it when it narrows a little bit and then thickens again. So let's see if I can do that. All right, and then if I start to look at the relationship between the pot and the cup, I can kind of stretch it down and say, that could work. It's kind of long, you can see there, but if I wanted to, I could kind of stretch it across the back and smooth that out. That might be a nice possibility. I can also, I'm just kind of pushing it up a little bit here, like this. See if I can give myself a little more motion there. So this is gonna be, that's kind of long. I think I'll cut it off a little bit. And I can use my rib to just kind of give it a little snip. I want to just check and see how the sides look. So it's a little bit thick on this side, kind of round, whereas this side is slightly more tapered. And it's just the way that my thumb was pushing on it. So I think before I attach it, I'm just going to try to taper that side of it too a little bit. I like it if it's a little tapered on the ends because I think it's more comfortable in the hand. I don't like handles that are too wide. I have kind of small hands. All right. I think that's a little bit better. So I should do a little scoring underneath here where it is going to attach. And one thing you want to do is make sure to kind of look at it, you know, right head on to be sure that they're lined up because you don't want it to be crooked. I often will put them on crooked and that's pretty silly. All right, so my hands are kind of goopy now. I just want to make sure I can kind of get a good grasp. And I'm going to play with maybe spreading it out here and making kind of a nice little fan attachment at the base so you can sort of see that. It's not too bright. I'll bring these into the studio so you can look at them in person too. All right, and then I think I'm going to square it slightly by pushing it down there just a tiny bit because I think that looks nice with the squareness of the cup. All right, and I'll just make sure to kind of clean up the piece. I tried not to put too many kind of goopy hand marks on it because it just makes more work. I'm going to clean up the slurry a little bit and that'll be that for that piece. And I'll be ready now to paint with underglaze. All right, so I'm gonna keep my pieces covered up so I can do a little carving on them if I want to too. This one's starting to get a little dry. I'm just gonna wet it a little bit. Let's see, I was thinking I'd show you one more technique here that's kind of fun and then I'll attach, we'll look at some of the choices and see which ones we should attach to. All right, so I have here a piece of baling wire that is clamped in a vice grip, if you can see. And you can just take a piece of wire and you can form it into a round shape. Sometimes people use wire that has texture to it so that you get little grooves. And I have a nice slip painted pot that I'll bring in for you to see. And these are used to make cut handles. So you don't want them too large. I do kind of want it to be as round as possible. I don't want to have a really skinny pointy area like I do here at the top. But what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to make this one a little smaller. The one that I have in the vice grip right now is quite small because I don't really think I need a super big handle. I'm thinking about putting it on the pot that I threw the foot on. So I'm going to kind of turn that a little bit. And this one's a lot bigger, but I just wanted to show you some possibilities for what you could get by cutting handles. I like this technique a lot. It can be used in different ways. I'm just kind of clean it. You do want it to be kind of straight, like up and down this way. and it's hard to show you exactly what that looks like. But you don't want it to be bent. And you want to, when you pull it through the clay here, you want to make sure that you don't turn it too much and pull it, because if you do, then it's going to be really thin. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I put it in there and I pull it sideways, I'm going to get something that's kind of like the profile, or sort of skinny. See how that gets really skinny? And that's not so useful, I don't think. See, it would be sharp. So I'm going to show you what I try to do. You can pull it just really straight and make something kind of round. Now the clay that I have that I'm using here is a little stiffer, not super soft, and it's nice because then the thing I cut doesn't get stuck in the clay, and I'm able to kind of just peel it back and get it out. All right, so I do have kind of a pointed edge. It's not quite as round on this side as it is on this side, but I can shape this, and I can then go back if I want to and smooth that up. So this clay's breaking up a little bit here, but you can get the idea that you can make kind of a fun little shapes. These are nice for like handles and things like that too, but what's cool about them is that they're really fast, and you can make a bunch of them and squish them back if you don't like them. You can also play with drawing shapes in different patterns or kind of curves. So one thing you could do is just kind of go up and down. I'm pulling the tool up and down. This might be a little too much, but just so you can get an idea, you could do more of a kind of slow curve, but these can be really fun to get funky little shapes for. And this could be a foot, you know, you could put a couple of these on, or it could be, you know, a handle that you hold. Maybe this would not be the most comfortable shape for a mug to hold because of all those little grooves. But I would let it stiffen for a while before I messed with it. Get it to leather hard before I tried to use it. All right, so let's try another way to do this. See, I'm gonna mush it down because I have thick and thin areas, and I wanna make sure that I cut kind of evenly. You can also cut in a shape. So I might cut kind of a curved shape that looks like a handle, and I'm turning the wire so that I cut kind of perpendicularly. That way I can try to get the widest handle possible. So let's see what that looks like. You have to kind of coax it out of there carefully. Try not to squish the clay too much. All right, so that is pretty good. You know, you can mess around with it a little more and just get the right shape. So I'm going to bend it a little further. I didn't quite like the shape that I cut. My clay wasn't big enough, so I'm going to push it around like this a little bit more. And I'm going to let that one dry too. All right, so this is another way that you can think about trying to cut handles from a larger piece of clay. All right, so I have another little piece of clay that I formed, and this one has a thicker area here. And I'll spin it a little bit in the middle. And then I'll kind of widen it out at the base. So it's helpful if you start with something that's close to where you want to end up. You don't have to move the clay around so much. And I always find that I often find, that I use more clay than I need. All right, so let's just look here. I'm just gonna see. This is probably longer than I'm gonna want for the handle on this cup. But I can always, oops, take some away. So I kind of muck that up a little bit. Let me fix it. All right, and I got some dry clay in there. I'm letting my clay dry out in my splash pan, and we'll talk about what to do with that. Your trimmings in a little bit. Okay, so you can pull starting from the top like I did in the last cup, or if you want to, you can even experiment with pulling your handle beginning at the bottom, a little bit more upside down. So kind of thickening that up, flattening it out. And now I'm gonna score it a little bit, and I'll attach it to this handle, excuse me, to this pot here. Spread it out. And I want to make sure I don't have any thin spots. And this is not the greatest starting place here, but I'm going to just be gentle with it because I'm not going to pull it too much. I think I started with it fairly thin. I'm just going to smooth it up. And I'm pushing a little harder where I know it's a little bit thicker, and I'm not pushing so hard where I think it's a little weak, and see if I can kind of even it out there. You know, sometimes they don't work, but if they don't, you just pinch them off, kind of scrape them up, and you start again. So that's the kind of the nice thing about these. I can look to see how I like it. I think that's kind of bulky here, so I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to bring this curve down a little bit. I think it sticks out too much there. So I'm going to try to get the handle to hang straight. All right, it's hard to do this in the video. You kind of want to look at the handle as you go. I think that's not so good. So I got too thin here and it broke off. So I'm going to have to remove it. Sometimes these bad demos are good because they show you what to do. So I'm just going to take my needle tool here and remove most of the clay. Just kind of take it off. I'll have to re-wedge this bit here. Put it in my pile. And then I'm just going to kind of gently, with my rib, scrape off the clay that didn't work out from the old handle and make way for a new one. All right. Let's see about maybe, I'm gonna put this one aside for a second. I'm gonna try to put this curved one that we made on the pot that I threw the foot on. I'm just gonna see how that we'll look and see which one it might look best on. So I cut most of it off, so if I wanted to, we could have kind of a long handle, but it's a little bit maybe too long because it'd be kind of far away from a pot potentially. But let's look and see how it appears. So this is it. I could do different things on here, right? I could do it like so. I could put it down here. I'd have to maybe cut it in a different direction so it went kind of differently. Let me show you. It's cut actually to do this. So this could be like that. I can also cut the top of it. Let me show you. Something on here. I could cut it at an angle like this, so it's kind of tapered, and then when I put it on here, it sits at a slightly different angle, and I could again angle this so it was the same. I could also bring it down and put it here, which is kind of nice. I could sort of fit it into this groove. So there are a lot of choices, you see, or how you might use these handles. And maybe that's a little too long, and then you can play with how long that would be and what the ergonomics of holding a handle like that would be. So I've never made one quite like this. That might be fun, something kind of fun to play with. It looks like it's a little short down here, so I might need to add a little clay there. And this is kind of a lot of clay. If I were to attach all of that there, I don't know that I could fit my finger ends. I might need to trim that a little bit. So that would be one option. Now let's see if I can use it on this piece here. I was thinking it could be nice on this taller piece here. All right. So I've cut it at an angle, so I'm a little more limited on how I could do that now. And I probably would need to cut the other one too. But I was thinking that could be fun. You know, they could go up tall, but then you'd have to worry about, you wouldn't want to necessarily hit your face with your handle. They could go down, it could be low, and you could play with it in different positions down low. So you should experiment with different ideas. You know, they could also go, sometimes people do them upside down. Let's see if we could figure out a way to maybe use it upside down. Sometimes people will put them like this, but then this curve might be a little wrong, so I might need to change it. I could do something like this and then cut the top of that. You could do a circle. So there are a lot of choices, all right? I think that gives you some ideas of how you might play with these, and we'll practice in class. All right, good luck.